When Gordon arrived on the railway, Sir Topham Hatt purchased brand new express coaches for him. They had sturdy metal bodies, smooth bogies, and separate compartments for the passengers. Gordon was well pleased with his coaches. The old coaches felt left out. Time and wear had led the railway inspectors to see them as unworthy of the main line. The coaches were most upset. "Cheer up," smiled Edward. "You'll still be useful on the branch line trains." "Branch lines," they shuddered. "How embarrassing." While Henry was shut up in the tunnel, Edward took over his local trains. He knew all about being left behind and brought the old coaches out as often as he could. This cheered them up, until Gordon voiced his opinion. "A pity," he sniffed. "But that's the price of progress if you ask me. Why, even you would have been a prime express engine at one point, Edward. I suppose it's only natural that modern engines require modern coaches." "Is that so?" smirked Edward. "Why, I think you'd look most distinguished pulling these old dears." "Oh, no, thank you," Gordon harumphed. "They'd be open-topped carriages before I even reached top speed. Now these," he finished eyeing the express behind him, "are proper coaches." "Is that what they are?" asked Thomas, shuffling alongside. "I thought somebody had stretched out the goods vans and you were doing some real work for a change." Edward couldn't help but chuckle, and Gordon fumed out of the station. His mood didn't improve on the main line. They were going well. Too well. "Settle down, Gordon," scolded the driver. "You'll do a number on yourself. Make no mistake." Real work," he muttered. "I'll show those engines a thing or two about real work." The next morning, Gordon tried to leave the sheds, but couldn't. "What's happened to me?" he groaned. His crew examined him. The trouble was not hard to find. "Something's wrong with your tender brakes," sighed the fireman. "And with how you were going about yesterday, I'm not surprised." "And you thought the old coaches would be the ones to fall apart," laughed Thomas. Edward gave him a look. "This is no time for teasing, Thomas. The express must go out on time." "And how?" muttered Gordon. "You aren't strong enough to pull those coaches, Edward." Edward glanced at the coaches and the carriage sidings. Then he spotted something else. The passengers were growing impatient. There was no train, and it would soon be time to leave. Sir Topham Hatt stepped out of his office to see what the matter was, when he saw a peculiar sight. Edward came steaming in with all the old coaches he could find. The passengers were surprised, but thankful they had a train at all. They hurriedly boarded the coaches, and Sir Topham Hatt smiled. "Well done, Edward. Most resourceful of you. Don't push yourself too hard." "I may not match Gordon's pace, sir," smiled Edward, "but I'll have a jolly good try." The guard blew his whistle, and Edward set off. Soon he was coasting down the main line, making excellent time. He whooshed through the tunnel, giving Henry quite a shock. "Go on, Edward," he cheered.
Go on!
Come along, Edward puffed.
Gentle and fast, gentle and fast,
Cooed the coaches. They were very pleased with Edward. At the last station, the passengers cheered and thanked Edward. The engine at Vicarstown was most amused, but looked on with admiration. Edward just smiled. He was thankful for a rest. When they returned to Sodor, Edward spoke kindly to the old coaches. Well, my dears, how did you fancy a return to the glory of the express?
Oh, it was lovely, Edward, said one. Although, added another, perhaps you were right. Some leisurely branch line work does sound most enticing.
Well, Edward laughed, I'd say it's time for a well-earned rest in the carriage shed. Come along.
That won't be necessary.
Gordon slunk up alongside.
Sir Topham Hatt has given me temporary reprieve from the rigors of mainline work to rest my wheels, he stated grandly. I shall escort these fine...
That's not what he said, smirked Thomas. He said that you were to shunt in the yard until you learn not to be so big in the smoke box.
Take us away then, double quick, chop chop,
ordered the old coaches. Edward and Thomas shared a laugh, while Gordon went red in the face and shuffled silently away.